You're listening to Creating a Universe, a Love Anarchy podcast hosted by William J. Rogers. On this show, we follow the journey of creatives, artists, and entrepreneurs who are making a name for themselves in the ever-evolving landscape of today's industry. Featuring an insight into both Love Anarchy and the Lovaniverse music universe, as well as the individual projects and stories of each of our guests, from the music industry and beyond. So whether you're a budding creative or simply interested in what goes on behind the scenes, this is the podcast for you. Hello and welcome to Creating a Universe. I'm your host, William J. Rogers, and today I'm here with extreme metal musician, reviewer, and the founder of Face Ripper Records, Mr. Ben Sebastian. Welcome back, Ben.
Hello, what a pumped up introduction. Thank you very much. Great to be back.
Yeah, awesome, man. You are, I was obviously just telling you before, but you are the first return guest ever on this podcast. It's so awesome, man. I loved our first episode and so much has happened since then. So
Definitely.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining me, man.
It's great to be back, and may there be many more returning successful guests as well, you know.
Absolutely, man. So, obviously in the first episode, we've kind of did the usual episode and we chatted a lot about yourself and your story. People may or may not have seen that. So just, could we maybe start with a little bit of a brief overview of who you are and what you do?
So I'm kind of a self-taught kind of musician. Started composing. Well, I've been composing most of my life. Started trying to take it a bit more seriously a few years ago. And I started a kind of podcast, which was more of an attempt to sort of create a little sort of online radio show. And then that kind of just suddenly took off and turned into reaction review content. And I got ever so busy with that. And then I doubled down on my own musicianship even more. Now I had this sort of kind of platform and community and felt all inspired. And then very quickly on, about a month ago, I set up Face Ripper Records, a label, off the back of some of the stories that I'd heard from the artists that I've been doing all this reaction review stuff for, coming to me going, well, it wasn't so good in the end. And I thought, well, that's just a shame, because my ethic is to, try and get people to invest in their own innate talents and musicianship as a way of surpassing the vicissitudes of life. And here we are, we've either got really big ignorant type labels or small, under-resourced, under-caring types, and leaving musicians that I was, happily celebrating their signage and what have you, and they been left feeling dejected, and that didn't kind of wash with my ethic, and I felt a little bit guilty for kind of prematurely celebrating, because everybody sort of believes from the outset that but getting signed, that's it, that's the golden position, that's where everyone gets to, and of course it's not always that case. So I thought, well, I'm kind of doing a lot of promotion and stuff anyway. Why not think of something to kind of further that and give people some sort of experience as to like how to be treated, I suppose, as a human and not just another number and statistic. Of course, there are some great labels out there, and I'm discovering in my journey here that it's exceedingly hard work. So it's not all kind of bad news, doom and gloom. But I seem to have expanded on my community even more, and it's going well.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. It's incredible. It's incredible work, and absolutely love what you've been doing. The rate that things have developed as well. But as you say, I think that so much of it is really coming from, as you mentioned, your ethic and your community, right? Your sense of, wanting to give to the community. And I remember, obviously, when you were last on the podcast, that was not too long after starting this journey with your own podcast and everything, and doing reviews. And that's what it was all about then, right? It was about wanting to create community and really, provide a platform for these artists who just have so much to give. And, and so I just absolutely love to see how that has evolved into now where you're at with the record label. You said it's been a month, man, but pretty amazing progress in a month, right? Like,
thank you.
Where are things at with the label now?
Oh man. So we've got kind of 17 signed acts. I say signed. There are no signatures. There are no fat cat contracts and all that kind of stuff. People are willing to come and go. There's no changes to their monetary kind of systems. There's no overriding ownership of any of their stuff, and that's just a standard. That's my belief, and that's the way I'm operating it. So yeah, so 17 in the first month. We've launched a kind of sort of a taster free download. We've built a website and a platform which you can come onto all of that, because you've been massively involved in that, and I have a lot to thank you for on that side of things as well. There's a compilation coming. Been working on individual campaigns and kind of, testing sort of marketing strategies and all that kind of stuff, and growing followers and doing kind of sort of live online shows, mainly through the medium of TikTok, but it's going to grow to other platforms, and and t-shirts and all sorts of stuff. And it's been just it's a whole month of just creation and generation, and it's fun. It totally suits my kind of mindset of just doing stuff, getting creative, getting your sort of your feet dirty in the mud, trying to sort everything out, and living on the edge of fear, I suppose, a little bit, because now I realize I'm kind of responsible in some way to this collective of individuals, and I believe it's always good to be in that position, just slightly on the edge of fear, and I'm not quite sure what I'm doing and what have you, but at the same time executing. You don't run over the top of the trenches in 1914 and think about it beforehand. You just get on and do it. It's that kind of thing. It's just what a journey, and I'm literally so grateful and thankful to all the artists and indeed the customers and public for their just this level of faith in me that's come out of seemingly nowhere, and it's really humbling, and I'm glad I made the decision. I wish I'd kind of thought about it sooner, but we all think like that.
That's it. No, it's amazing, man, and right place, right time. I love how it's so clearly blossomed from your intent to just support the community, and I mean I think that's why people have flocked to you. 17 in a month is incredible work, man. Honestly, I don't actually know how you managed to do as much as you've done this month. I do, but it's insane, because I've obviously been following your progress the whole way, and I don't know how much you're sleeping these days, but
well, okay. So normally, typically, I get between about 2 and 5 hours a night. But one of the other things that I did as kind of part of creating this label is I had a look at myself internally, and I've got various different kind of bits and pieces going on with my mental health and ADHD and borderline personality disorder and all sorts of things, and I was looking at, okay, so what behaviors am I engaging in that are harmful? And this is off the back of now being, I think, 1,089 days free from cocaine and recovery, and learning all about myself and unpacking all my shit. And some of the kind of residual things were, I'm involved in the community, but I could be doing that a bit more. And then something like quitting smoking. I did that on the basis of, well, it allows more money into the label and it gives it a reason. I won't quit smoking for myself. I won't quit smoking because my doctor tells myself, or because a lung has fallen out. But somehow, when I attach it to my music and the whole kind of sphere, it seems to have become exceedingly easy. And now, because I'm not constantly on that dopamine hit, I'm now sleeping 11 hours a night, which I've never done in my life. Wow. Which has really impacted on my work rate, because, if you're only sleeping for 2 hours a day, then that's 22 hours a day of work. And so it's I'm currently mourning the loss of my kind of hyper engagement, but I'm getting it back because I've also made dietary changes that will enable some recovery. So it's been a test, not only just in terms of getting a label organized and running and learning all these new skills and platforms and all this kind of stuff, but it's also been a kind of look inwards as well. How do I make myself a better person that's going to stick around a bit more to actually leave, well, I guess it's my legacy, behind, because it's probably one of the first valuable things that I've actually done that's kind of got some legwork, because I've made my own mistakes and malfeasances in the past. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I just went off on a tangent. Where were you?
It's amazing, man. No, I love it. I think it's very important that people understand that as well. And I think that as well, many of us creative people and other musicians, especially in like metal and alternative music and stuff, like likely have their own troubles with these things. And I think, as you say, like, we can get ourselves into negative spirals, addictions and things like that. But finding a positive outlet for that kind of energy, ultimately you are somebody who has a lot to give. You have a lot of energy that you can put into things, and if you don't apply that productively, it gets wasted, or it gets put into
yes, well,
places, right?
The devil makes work for idle hands, or whatever the expression is certainly has rung true in certain instances in my life, and addiction is one of those. And I think also there's I was having a conversation with someone that's recently kind of signed, and they're a few hundred days into the same sort of journey in terms of recovery as I am, and they're quite open about it, so I'm okay to talk about this in some level. But there's an element that if musicianship is your creative outlet, but there's nowhere for that to go or be seen or be heard, whilst it is very important and it's very healing for yourself to engage in that, if it doesn't really sort of go anywhere, it lends itself to it being pointless and burning out. Mm-hmm. And it leads to people turning away and go, well, I tried everything that was about me, and that didn't work. So what's left is only self-destruction. And that again taps into my overarching themes, perhaps in that's a more nuanced kind of element to it, and it's very upsetting when when things go wrong in that regard. So if I can kind of support one person on their recovery journey, or stop one person from having a blowout, and instead, because they're pumped up about a video I did, actually spend that night in the recording studio and not die or put themselves to some harm, then that's my job. That's my job done. The rest is just all colorful images and brilliant music. But.
Amazing, man. Yeah. I really feel that, man. And that's powerful stuff. And these are the things that really drive the underlying motion of it. And I think that, again, you're just very authentic in that. You're very authentic, and you wear that in your sleeve, and that's why people have always sensed that in you. And people have always got so much value out of your reactions, the reviews, all this, because you just give so much of yourself to it. And I think that meant that when you said you're going to do a label now because you want to do more to help people, everyone's just like happy to be a part of that.
Then you're making me emotional now.
See, the thing I think is that what you're saying there, we talk a lot, like I often speak to people on this podcast about the healing power of music and how it's so cathartic to create. And I think that is wonderful. But I think you touched upon something very significant there that we don't talk about as much, which is it's all well and good doing that, but if that feels like it goes out into the void, then that can actually be quite demoralizing and negative. And I think that so much of it comes down to connection, right? It's that thing about human connection. So it's not necessarily about us having thousands or millions of fans or whatever, but just to have some people that are going to connect to this, and therefore to have somebody like you who is willing to really like passionately invest in listening to their music and giving feedback, and then take it to another level that you're willing to help promote them as a part of the label and invite them into a community. At the very least, that community that you formed within the label is a network for people to connect with each other, right?
Yes.
And that's it. That's the core of it right there. And that's beautiful, man.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. In today's society, we're so socially anxious that we don't even know who our neighbors are, let alone, I mean, when I was growing up, anyone who played a bit of an instrument would go down the local pub once a week and whatever. But those don't happen as much. And when you do go into a new town and find the local music pub, it all feels kind of, it takes ages to get into these kind of circles. And yeah, so when you're being the best version of you can be, i.e. you're a musician or you're a painter or whatever it is that your craft is, and it goes into this sinking void, and then all the while, or everything that you're viewing on your bloody device that's super glued to your hand is full of successful people with lots of likes and comments and subscribers, and then when you see stuff related to your own music, it's like, oh yeah, we can promote you for this and get you this, and it's more money that you don't have and can't earn, and there's more material you need to put out, and you need to mix better, you need to play better, you need to have this channel, that channel, man, it's amazing how so many of us haven't hung ourselves already.
I get it, man. Yeah. But that's it. But as you say, that's exactly what people need is we need at least that initial sense. If we can have that initial network and community of people to connect with, and that initial source of feedback and support and interaction, and like with what you're doing, you have that initially in the community of the artists, but then obviously the whole thing is about you pushing that out to as many more people as you can, and you all working together to grow that kind of movement.
Exactly.
That's it. It's like it gives you that kind of hope, it gives you that drive and that direction.
And I think one of the other kind of the terminology I've kind of used around the label is that it's almost like a foundation or an entry level, label. Foundation purely because it's kind of just funded by my own income as a chef, and we all know chefs work all day, all night, and for an awful lot of money. But yes, you have the community support. I have as much freebies and bits and pieces that I can, either fund myself or kind of convince other people to fund, or do a bit of wheeling and dealing. And this works out in terms of sort of extra reviews and content that bands don't need to sort of pay for. Obviously, it looks like in just additional kind of sort of marketing tools, bits and pieces. If I can get discounts here, discounts there, there's all these kind of bits I can get in the work. So yeah, it's sort of an entry level so that they found a home somewhere. And then if someone smaller, let's pick like Black Lion Records, or even bigger, someone like Warner, Sony Music or something comes along, then at least they know what to look out for. I spent a lot of my time and I hadn't actually thought about this linkage here before, but I spent a lot of my time as a practicing accountant. And again, there I was the renegade, because I would have these down-to-earth conversations with people that usually got into trouble with the tax office by burying their head in the sand because of life events. And they'd go to the nice big offices, the best firms, and get charged absolutely tons of money, and not get to speak to someone, to the big wigs, or to even people that are handling it, get all of this pretentious language, and actually feel more demoralized and less kind of willing to actually sort their affairs out. So I kind of set up this practice that wasn't about that. It was about 100% access, 100% of the time. I'll sit there, I'll understand it all, we'll work out a deal, whatever your kind of financial circumstances are, doesn't make the problem go away. Better times around the corner when you fix the bad times. Unfortunately, I screwed all of that up with my own kind of malfeasance, but which is all well documented on YouTube, and it's absolutely hilarious in retrospect. But I'm thankful for it in a way, because it's brought me to here. But yeah, I guess a similar ethic in that. And of course, some of those clients that I had would then move on, because their businesses became sort of multi-million, and they move on to PricewaterhouseCoopers or some posh Big Five firm somewhere. But then often they'd come back because they had an experience of how to be treated. And I guess there's in figuring out that link, that tells me more about myself than I possibly know. And you're spot on with your assessment there.
Yeah. No, I think it does, as you say, it does say a lot about your character and your ethos. And I think that, as you say, that provides a lot of value to people, because you really are offering no restrictions. You don't want to do anything. You only want to provide a launch pad for these artists. And if they can find value in staying with the label in the long term, or if it's, better for them to move on to like a nice deal that they get offered by a bigger label, then cool, you're all for it. You're rooting for them. But again, it's that thing of being informed and not feeling like you have to go for like any deal that comes your way just because.
No,
whatever.
indeed. You're looking for a deal that's better than the one that you've got, and you've got a community of artists here that some of them have had their fingers burnt, and some of them are brand new. And if things don't work out, or if the label kind of tires them out and says that's your 3 albums, you're done, they've got somewhere to come back to. They know the score is.
Yeah, which is awesome. And that kind of brings me on to, I'm thinking like for people listening to this, for the artists on your label and others that might come in, or people looking to get into the music industry. I'm interested just to actually talk about the topic of record labels a bit. And, we've talked a little bit about your label and how it's actually quite different and unique, and it's very community driven. How would you define a label, and what would you say like the traditional kind of model of a label is, and various kind of versions that we've got?
Okay, well, I've had no direct experience in this, so but from the bands that I've worked with, from the bits and pieces that I've kind of picked up, I think again it's a community, but you've got a community like us guys, you've got a real community, and then you've got that community at work that goes on with upper management, the big boys club. And I think it's essentially, these big labels are kind of in bed with all of the kind of the magazines and the film producers and the big music studios and the distributors and all this kind of stuff. And I think, that is such a positive, but I think somehow it's just become this bigger demon, and nobody really kind of remembers why and how it all started, and for what ethical reasons, and for what benefits. It's now just become a bit of a mill. Like I say, there are lots of great labels out there, and there's probably many that share my ethic, perhaps. But it's a tough one. I find that people in the sort of higher spheres in the music industry, they're very hard to reach, not very accessible. They don't invest any time in making a sub-platform for those wishing to kind of carve their way in and to do that legwork. It's just a bit offish. And why? And then when someone does get involved in it, and they get their fingers burnt, and the time allocation isn't there, the financial resources isn't there, and the bands end up funding them stuff themselves. I know a case of someone that kind of sunk sort of multiple tens of thousands of pounds, dollars, euros, whatever it was, into their label deal, and they got nothing. And it's just like, and it's not regulated. If I did that in the accountancy profession, well, I kind of did do that, and I went to prison for it. Yeah. So where is this in the music industry?
Yeah.
Why does it always come out 30, 40, 50 years later?
That's a great point. Yeah.
Or why does it now? Why, if you want to challenge your record label, it turns into a multi-million-pound lawsuit, which you've got to fund.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really interesting observation, the kind of lack of regulation there. I mean, they say that like the music business was founded by gangsters, basically. Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, the landscape has obviously changed a lot in that time, just in terms of the industry, in terms of, record labels, back in the day used to literally like pay for you to record, because you just wouldn't be able to do that as a, normal person for the most part. And then they pay for that, but they own the record, and then they sell it and take pretty much all of it. The old deals were like 90% would go to the label. Mm-hmm. So just like a few percent or whatever for the artist, and then they got to pay their agent or whoever if they got one. So yeah, it was all kind of founded by gangsters and very unregulated, as you say.
It's a racket.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
I was just gonna say, it has evolved over time, and especially the internet changes everything, because it does mean that anybody can make a label now, which kind of also means a label can kind of be a wide range of things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It also means what's probably happened to the bigger label industry is it's got very scary for them, because now everybody can record. Everybody can, you can get mix mastering done on Fiverr and stuff if you can't do it yourself for like, 20, 30 quid or more, or whatever your budget is,
You can digitally distribute. They had to like get your physical, records manufactured and put into stores. Like, you could not do that without them.
Yeah. So now it's a case of like all of their little kind of income revenue streams and processes and all of the things that everybody has lent on each other, along the chain and come to rely on, is coming to an end. And maybe just the big labels they're too big of a monster to be able to react to that change. I don't know, but I was just getting to I saw something. And there's been a talk of this kind of Spotify have got too much of a monopoly. They're changing their system, and because they've got all the music and all the artists, then the way the weighted distribution goes, it's unfair to people of a certain decade or of a certain genre, and all that kind of stuff. So there's now an emergence of platforms, and one combination of that I'm looking at the moment is there's a rock and metal platform coming out, and the idea is that they'll use the same model because it's enshrined in law as Spotify, but because it is genre specific, the division of artists is less, because there's no point competing metal with hip hop and grime and pop, and why are we kind of sharing the distribution between Kill Switch Engage and Mozart, they're all on Spotify, so one of them, I think the leading one which might have legs is Rock, and I think it's ROKK, are looking to subdivide all of that. That might actually be promising. That might be promising, but again, it's another set of distribution and streaming. But I'm sure automation will help in that manner. But it's interesting to see that the big model is being challenged, and if that big model is challenged, then the big boys in terms of the labels won't be playing so much to the fiddle, because a genre-specific streaming platform that works like Spotify and becomes as popular as Spotify will be driven by smaller independents, musicians like you and I, and labels like me, and more esteemed labels, and more functional labels, and we can maybe get to some sense of parity again. That's what I'm kind of thinking when I look at these things, whether or not they're successful. They could just get stopped by law. Spotify goes, no, that's our business model. The law is completely universal, we can't change that, but you're using something that looks like our business model, so we're going to sue you, and then that puts them out of business. It could all end tomorrow. But
but I mean, I think that's interesting. I think that those are some interesting points. I think the important thing to get from that, or that I get from that, is just that you are always watching these things and you're always interested on the future and where things are going. I mean, you've been so on the cutting edge with all the AI technology, using everything as it comes out. Like, I think you were the first person that I saw making music videos with Runway and stuff. And I keep a big eye on that, man. But you were on it like instantly, like as soon as that became available, type thing. So
I think that maybe that was more luck than judgment. But
fair enough.
I've done an AI video for actually someone that's now come on the label, Lord Chaos. I did his Exordium Inferni video, and now working on another one. And I'm working on some more for others because they saw that as well. And I was like, I couldn't have been the first to this or whatever. But no, I appreciate that. It makes me feel less old, because another thing that's happened to me recently is I've turned 40, and I know it's just a number, but if things start slowing down, your knees don't quite work quite as good as they did, and you get an update and you're scared of it because you like things how they were. And you're like, shit, I'm getting older here. So I've decided to kind of, that's That's something I'm kind of sort of focusing on. I don't get behind on tech, So I'm glad that you've picked up on that. But now it's funny enough, since a couple of people that have joined the label have gone, I've given them the sort of like the template of how I go about doing it, and they're all now busy creating AI videos. So there's going to be so much stuff that just looks like me now, and I'm going to have to kind of separate.
Well, yeah,
I'll have to do the next thing.
That's Face River Records, though, right? It's like people will be able to kind of see that stuff is associated because of that style. And I think the point is, like, it puts you in a very good like position, like where you are now as a kind of leader of this community. It's great to have you as a person that's always trying these things out and looking for these new things. And yeah, maybe you get on a platform that's genre specific, and maybe it lifts off and that carries you all. Maybe it doesn't, and it's another thing. What I love about the genre specific idea, I think that it's really cool. But when you said a platform for rock and metal, I just thought it's hilarious how that would create a job for metal gatekeepers. Like, this is not metal enough to be on our platform,
Yeah, where do you draw the line in the sand?
Yeah, that'd be a fun topic.
Funny actually, because I was in work yesterday, and one of our chefs, and his music is not particularly heavy at all, but he loaded up a Spotify like rock playlist, and it had all these artists in it that were just not rock. It was like, you had a couple of sort of like rap artists that featured 2 seconds of an electric guitar in there, and it's like, how, so yeah, I wouldn't want to do the gatekeeping job. Like, well,
yeah, man. Yeah. We all know, especially how in metal you can get that big time, man. Like, that's not metal.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, it's fun. I think that's cool, man. I think it's really cool to be having our eyes open, and stuff develops fast at this point. But yeah, for the moment, obviously, Spotify and the major labels have kind of managed to come to a good working relationship for their own businesses. Like obviously piracy kind of like was a massive freak out for the major labels, and streaming has kind of, they've managed to move their business model to a way that works.
Yes, but in the kind of throes of doing that, you've lost products.
Yeah.
Because you could queue up at HMV on a Monday morning when all the new singles come out and go to the metal and find some obscure band, and you get all of their kind of stuff, all of that content. And now that's kind of, most people's default setting is, if they've heard this song or they discover it on Spotify, they don't get to see much of the content behind it unless they become a committed, fan. And yeah, that's the ultimate cost. That's the price we've had to pay for Spotify, is, the loss of actual kind of dedicated fans as they used to be. But everything's cyclical. It's going to come round, and I'm going to do my best to make sure it does for my bunch. So
yeah, that's it. I mean, what do you think the role is now for like physical product and that kind of merchandise for artists?
Oh, well, I think there's an argument to say you need to become a bit more creative. Like, for example, one of my singles, Playing Chess, I could maybe sort of come up with a limited edition chessboard or something. But this is, so I think maybe some products need to become more diverse, but that comes with a heavy price tag. I think overall it's not about merch and products. These things help. You've got to be able to get your story across and make not just a fan out of an individual, but you've got to make a friend out of that individual. And I think that is the way to marketing and kind of at least find some financial recompense for your musical sort of efforts and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm quickly discovering that anyone can run a paid ad and get hundreds of hits on their website and nobody buy anything. I'm discovering, all of these things I knew as a musician, but when you're doing it as a label, it's suddenly amplified. It amplifies all of your, well, certainly perceived failures. And I'm my own worst critic, and I'm very punitive with myself on this. And it's just like, how do I get this bunch to go into this corner and buy this and make it all work up with all of the markups and everything else, and every little platform taking a little slice out of it, just for existing. It's just like, but what I do see is, whilst we're sort of becoming a more engaged culture because we can access anyone at any time, but we're also much more sort of disengaged because that's just how society is now. But I think if you can bridge that gap a little bit, not just musically, I think the bands need to be seen more. It needs to be less pretty pictures, more kind of spoken content. Come out of your shell a little bit. Do a live bit here and there, and what have you. Particularly if you're not a gigging or a band or touring sort of artist. And I think that is the ultimate funnel, and that's the ultimate funnel in life, right? Because people buy people. People resonate off authenticity. The days of, hey, come, I'll check this out, I'll put this, that's all very much overbought now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you're right. It's just ridiculously saturated, and I think that's interesting. That's kind of the dichotomy of the internet in general, us all being more connected and less connected all at once. So it's like, yeah, as you said, that process of like getting a record that you might find an obscure record in a HMV or whatever in the record store, whatever. Maybe people outside the UK don't know. HMV. Yeah. Maybe even young people in the UK
don't even know. They go, what's a record?
Yeah, exactly. But
we're almost getting to the point we're going, what's a store?
Exactly, man. And so now it's like you could like an artist and a song, but like still just scroll past it after a few seconds. And so I think the thing is, when there's that much competition for attention, as you say, I think the real thing that you have to do is just full circle again and say, like, connect with people. It's all about human connection. That's the most important thing, that is an essential thing we all need, no matter how amazing the technology is. It's not something we can replace, so that's the danger with getting super advanced with technology, is we lose that very fundamental component to our being. And so I think that's why more than ever there is this real need for community and connection. And artists are the people to provide that, like perhaps other people can too, but artists, like, I feel like that is our role in a way.
This is what always happened back in the day when we were in loincloth, and we'd go down to the local campfire for the source of food, and but no, we wanted to just really sit there naked in the cold all night. So some people kind of banged on some bongos and some rudimentary guitars, and then that became a thing, and that kind of is waning. Yes, you can. Here in England, I can go to watch a cover band and all that kind of stuff, and that's all very well and good. But if I want to go and see something that's metal, just as much as probably if I wanted to go and see something that was jazz or classical, I've got to go quite out of my way. And this is, again, it's probably the punishment for capitalism and evolution and living in the styles of the kind of towns and villages and cities that we do. But it's maybe sort of bringing a bit of that back,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And then so really, I think as a creator, it's all about quality over quantity in terms of the connections you make with fans. At least I think that unless you're really in the major label kind of broadcast pop mainstream approach, which if you're in metal, you're generally not. I mean, there's a very small handful maybe of metal bands that have like major commercial success. So unless you're really kind of doing that, which is a game that is much more exclusive, then it's really all about building a really well nurtured small community, right? I mean, that's the way to do it.
I mean, it's strange when you say major, when you said major kind of commercial, I thought about Freddie Mercury, and everyone knew him, loved his story, felt connected to him, and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm just trying to think, like, who is loved that much, like, in the top 10 artists, maybe I'm too old. Maybe all the young people are in love and know everything about this particular rapper that's number one at the moment. I don't know, but I don't sense that. I don't hear. I work with a lot of younger people in the sort of restaurant and catering business, and I don't hear that much passion about music, that much passion about things like sort of drum and bass sort of live gigs and stuff. They're all about that. But individual artists, it's just like they look cool, they flash, and they sing about this. But ask him, okay, well, what about their sort of story? People aren't. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Yeah, perhaps.
I
Yeah,
digress.
no, for sure. Interesting landscape for sure. But what's without doubt is that, like, people find their own ways to connect with things, and the fact that we have the internet and you can reach people all over the world, you will be able to find your tribe no matter what you are. And if you're somebody that makes some obscure metal music or whatever, then that might be really weird and everybody in your town thinks you're weird. But like, chances are you can find at least a good, handful of people online that actually, given the opportunity, would really connect with that.
Yeah, no, well, I've achieved it on a sort of musicianship kind of scale. I decided, I think it was about August time, I was going to like hit 10 singles and get them out. Wow. Okay, there will be things in the I do along the way that I will review and go, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I re-recorded that guitar part. I wish I mixed it like that. But I just thought, okay, so now is the time that I had a little bit of a personal bump in May, and that just really frustrated. So when I kind of got out of that bump, I was just like, okay, so now I need to double down, because I know what life throws at you, and it cannot be pretty, and you can be gone tomorrow. And so it was like 10 singles by the end of the year. Okay, I've actually think I've done at 5 or 6. But then the creation of Facebook Records kind of got in the way. But hey, that's still a good percentage, and it's about showing up. And if you show up, you will accomplish something. So that's great for your internal kind of mental health. If you struggle to call yourself a musician, which is funny enough, is a comment I hear a lot all of the time for people about themselves. If you're constantly turning up and you're executing, then you start to believe that you are this musician because you're actually doing it all the time. And people will watch it. There will always be someone watching on the sidelines. Okay, not hundreds of people, but there's going to be, you'll get that one person that always comments and always likes and always critiques or something. And then that one person becomes 2. And then how many do you actually need, to then make it self-sustaining? It's less than you think it is.
It is, yeah. It is much less, yeah, because the game has changed. It's not necessarily about filling out stadiums of, thousands and thousands of adoring fans. Cool if you can get there, but you don't need that to make a living.
No.
I mean, always got to refer back to like Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans article, which is a very famous article, and he makes this point of like, if you could get 1,000 true fans, which he basically defines as people that are so invested in you that they'd be willing to spend $100 a year basically over like if all the things that you release or different merch and stuff like that. And then if you have 1,000 of those, then you're making 100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that's very achievable to do by like getting effective promotions done online, reaching enough people. As you said, anyone can run ads and you can reach thousands and thousands of people. It's just, if you can kind of convert them enough to eventually build into collecting about 1,000 of them, you can make, a really solid sustainable income for yourself. So,
and if the goal was 1,000, well, 500 is going to look even better, just as good compared to yesterday. So
it's something to work towards. Yeah, and it's something that's not millions. It's not some abstract thing where I have to win the lottery or I have to have a massive record deal. Otherwise, it's hopeless. The power is in your hands. You can work towards something.
No, absolutely.
And I have seen things before that suggested like the way that things are going with technologies and the fact that we all kind of, in a way, create our own little mini ecosystem. That 1,000 true fans could end up coming down to more like 100, going, moving forward, which starts to be actually really just like creating a really quite small community, a tribe. That's it. And then you provide as much value as you can to that tribe, and you bring people together, and you can make a living doing that.
Well, yeah, I mean, in some respect, sort of for smaller live venues that specialize in whatever, maybe only have about a couple of hundred people locally that go there, but it's enough to turn over. So you just have to think a bit like the bar. You need to put on an event. You need to sell kind of stuff that makes the drug that makes them feel good, and other bits and pieces, and just be there and be available and always have a kind of sort of doors open policy, and people can come in and kind of absorb your culture, and that's quite a similar thing.
So with that in mind, I mean, do you think artists need record labels in this day and age? And what do you think about the future for record labels?
Well, I think thinking big industry is always going to win to some extent. Um, like So here in the UK, we have, well, I think it's the same worldwide. We have all of these sort of on these TV competition shows and what have you, and then they turn into these massive artists. Well, it's interesting. That's an interesting model because it tells you that they're not finding the artists anywhere else. It tells you they're not going out looking. That tells you they're not spending the budget on that. They're going for the easy solution. Let's make people do all of their own work and apply, and then we'll just manipulate the whole process. It's almost like you're paying for your own streams. It's that kind of toxicity, but dressed up as a business, and everyone and the banks are doing well out of good, and it's well financed, and it's got all the best people. It's like that level of narcissistic business empire is always going to be around. Having got involved in what I'm doing, I'm seeing lots of others. There's a podcast which I need to watch of yours. I think it's Tom DeWitt. He's got his own label. I wanted to spare some time to kind of watch that, just kind of find out more about him and how he's approaching it. And there's going to be more of these. And I think niche culture is already happening in people's day-to-day lives. The algorithm provides so much, but people are getting a little bit tired of the TikTok and Facebook and everything and whatever. People are starting to switch off a little bit more. Like rates and comment rates and stuff are going down globally because people are just going bored. But and so things like Discord servers and other sort of mechanisms like that are kind of gaining some more traction because they're actually there's stuff for you there. It's not just filling your time and making you depressed. So I think labels will have to decide who they are, i.e., are they well financed enough to be the big wigs and do all of that kind of stuff, or do they need to have a look at themselves and go, okay, right, what are we providing in terms of a community? And I think that's what it is. And I think that's the way a lot of culture is going to go, because Gen X is now kind of looking at the model of employment and going, why has this been successful for so many years? And they're starting to challenge it. And Elon Musk has said that we will kind of in 100 years we'll kind of turn into a society that creates value for us in terms of our output, but not in terms of kind of hours worked for X rate. AI and machines and technology will kind of reduce a lot of the workload, leaving us free to actually adopt our own personalities into our own preferred talents. And people will be buying more artistic products, and there'll be more kind of entertainment, and there'll be more nuanced stuff. And I think that's what some labels will have to, those big to medium labels have to have a look at themselves and go, okay, are we churning over people, and is that ethical, and should we be doing something that's a little bit more focused, whilst obviously still retaining a business model and making profit, but it will look different.
That's
interesting. I think there's a good future for musicians. I don't think I will be. I don't think I'll be alive to see it. I've probably only got 40 years left ish, if I'm lucky. But I think the way we've been living for the last 100 years is going to look very different to the way the next 100 years are going to look.
I agree with that for sure. Do you think it will take that long? Do you not have hope for the next 40 years?
Well, you've got to wait. You've got to wait for people like me to die and get out of the way, because I'm used to it this way. And that's the same for Parliament. It can take 10 years to get a law changed, or to get imagine overhauling employment law. It's never going to happen in my lifetime. Not to completely change every nuance of it.
For sure. I do think that is interesting, though, what you say, like, especially in regards to AI technology automating a lot of work. I mean, AI technology is developing very fast. Maybe that's just perceived, and in the future we'll think, it wasn't as crazy as we thought. But right now it seems to be accelerating like crazy, and it seems to be a reasonable possibility that we could hit a point quite quickly in the next few years that a lot of stuff gets automated. You know, I mean, there has been mass layoffs due to automation and things like that. So, I mean, we really could be moving to a system where, as you said, a lot of work gets taken care of, and actually a lot of finance gets taken care of. You know, like we could have a lot less of a bottom line, you know, a poverty line, at least in, you know, first world, to the point that, yeah, you're not, as you say, having to slave away hours and hours, you know, unless you choose to. If you choose to make face rip records or something like that, then yeah, you're gonna bring on loads of work, but you're doing that in this very cause driven way, as opposed to like because you have to
because you had expected to and such, like, yeah.
So it's like people won't necessarily need money just to survive and get into a position where actually everything's kind of sorted. Like my AI contribution can, you know, go into the general, you know, automated contribution, and that kind of ticks me over and earns like a wage. And then if I want to earn more from that, I can be like, hey, everyone, I spent my time making some music. Do you want to come and get involved in this? And then we can all swap with each other. We kind of trade experiences. I feel like we are moving to something like that. And it could be soon enough to be like, at least in, I definitely feel like we will be moving to stuff like that in our lifetimes. If not, sooner than we might think.
If not, I'll just have to live forever. So
maybe AI will do that as well.
Well, that's the thing, you know. It saddens me. I've seen so much kind of pain and suffering in this world, and it upsets me greatly. And even more so as I age, and all of the music that ameliorates that. I still haven't listened to all of the music, and no, I know it's the impossibility, but it just saddens me that one day possibly I could lose the ability to listen to music, or I could lose the cognitive function that, you know, makes me enjoy music. So I switch off and become an old duffer in a wheelchair in the corner of an old people's home. Yeah. And then one day I'll expire, and then that will be all of my memories from all of this fantastic music I've listened to and tried to create. That's all over. And no, I can't walk away like that. So, you know, if I can create something that, you know, at least maybe 100, 200, maybe even 500 bands and individuals have got a memory of kind of good times, getting themselves sorted, and then they apply some of these ethics downwards to the next, then that's as close as I can get to living forever and making some small change or difference. I don't know.
That's it, man. And that's life. It's like, you know, there's a fine line between delivering something of real value to the world and therefore, you know, having contributing a sense of significance. But then there's also balancing that out with, you know, kind of keeping in perspective of our ultimate insignificance, you know?
Yes.
Because we are just tiny little ants at a blip in the moment of time, you know, and we don't need to necessarily take it too much more seriously than that either.
No,
you know? So,
no.
As you say, the best thing you can do is spend your time whilst you're here, you know, delivering value to people, and if you can create a positive impression on and serve those around you, then that is a legacy that lives on. And man, the way that you're talking about it, I think that's it. And I think that you just exude that in, you know, in your authenticity and your character. That's how you got 17 artists in a month, man, and they love it, man. Like, you know, I'm so grateful to be a part of the kind of like the Discord community and things like that, and to see how they respond to you, man. You know, how you're a champion for these people, man, and they appreciate it so much. And it's so good to see, because you bring them together, you inspire them to do their best, you know, and that's it. That's what we need, man.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what would you say, like, what are your goals for it? You said about getting potentially hundreds over, obviously that would be over the span of life, but
yes.
Do you have like kind of thing in mind for the scale of it, and also the kind of artists? We haven't quite touched upon that, but like obviously you talked about metal.
I mean, we're a case of a type of artist. You know, I'd like to kind of lean towards like heavy and brutal and stuff, but you know, there's so much in the metal kind of genres and subgenres and the way they all leak into each other that you know, there's just so much that kind of switches me on. I built up sort of fantastic sort of relationships. So there's a kind of bit for everyone. Whilst I do kind of sort of marketing wise and imagery wise lend to the mainstream, I'm also aware of those people that I can act as a gateway to the vicious stuff by kind of providing something a little bit lighter, as a way to. And it's good for the like compilations as well to have that kind of waxing and waning. So there's not a lot of stuff that I wouldn't sort of consider or touch. Generally, the way I suppose the signing the process has gone is that I've worked with these musicians and I'm totally like turned on by their music, or I discover someone and I go, oh my god, that's absolutely amazing. Find out that they've got 14 followers and feeling dejected and all that kind of stuff, and it's just like, okay, right, okay, let's hit it, and unfortunately there is probably a maximum capacity that one individual can take on. But I want to challenge that. At the moment, we are only kind of into month 2, so I've got to kind of get all of a lot of back of house stuff done, so that becomes easier along the way to pick up an artist and kind of get them onboarded and get something of value out to them and get them marketable. And there's only so many kind of hours I can be on, like, live streaming and playing all the music from the label before it gets to the fact of, well, here's my stream and it's going to last 10 years to get through all of this music. You watch me slowly withering away, but as many people as this can help is the maximum. And I'm sure my boys will tell me when I'm kind of sort of showing signs of being burnt out and uncommunicative or something because I'm stretched too thin. I'm sure the warning signs would be there. I think I've run a business before. I know what that looks and feels like. So, but it's let's just see how much you can do, and then if you can do that much, and you can do a little bit more, and if you can do a little bit more, you can do a little bit more. Then you have your first heart attack, and then you go, well, maybe I'll just go back to 110%.
Nice. Okay. Hopefully we can hold that off for a little while. At least you're sleeping better now.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, so it's annoying. But there you go.
It will balance out. No
health and age, being responsible, and it's almost like it's like an internal battle. I want to be young and reckless and overactive and get stuff done and whatever. And then the older side of me is going, yes, but there's always tomorrow. You always what your behaviors are like, and they don't do you go no good in the long run. So yeah, have some sleep, quit smoking, do all these things that I enjoy. I've given up on all the stuff that I used to love.
Yeah. but for good cause, as you say, and that's what helps it. So it helps you.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude, I'm with you, and that's so fantastic. And yeah, the way that it's going, and there's so much positive energy behind it, like, and so much momentum as well. Like, I'm sure things will work out, man. I'm sure that you'll find new ways to grow things and expand your infrastructure and stuff as is required, man. So yeah, I'm so excited to just like, even just be on the sort of fringes of it, because just to see so much positive inertia there is so inspiring, man.
With what I've got going, because obviously I'm part of your entrepreneur platform, so there is only so much I can physically, humanly do on that, and it would like to be the case to have you involved sort of more with the artists, because there are artists there that as they become sort of established, or as they gain confidence through the mechanism that I'm doing, they're like, well, okay, well, these tools that I've used and that I've built or that we've built are readily available. So there'll be artists that go, oh yeah, we want to do this absolutely mad campaign that is just absolutely way above anything that I can handle, because they've got 1,100 products and this and that, and they're supporting it with a live tour and all that. This stuff can and will happen. So I'm trying to sort of showcase your kind of entrepreneurial platform as much as I possibly can, and I think I need to do a little bit more of that, because you've been exceedingly helpful throughout this whole process, and I wouldn't, without your back of house, my front of house would just it'd be vacuous.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I think that you working with you on Face Ripper, just as you say, in that kind of back end, has been so great as well for me and for what Love Anarchy does, just because it's helped give me that insight. You know, we've got that platform to help artists, and have helped a bunch of artists, but with you being the first label, starting the label and kind of growing your account to facilitate that, you know, that's just opened kind of whole new worlds of things. And so, you know, it's you have just done such an amazing job with it, man. I mean, you really have. I've kind of almost given you the keys to the tool, you know, to the tools, and just, you know, provide some support in you getting things set up. But you have just taken it and ran with it, man, and done incredible work. Like that's really phenomenal. And as you say, like I hope that your artists get to benefit directly from that. Well, which they will, of course they will. And then to be able to help you with it, like I'm really happy helping you, because then it helps so many more people, and that's what both of us are looking to do.
Yes,
help as many artists as we can.
No.
So you know that I think it's just really awesome. It's such a fantastic partnership, I think, that we have, which I don't know if we like officially declared anything, but like you and
yes, we're in love, and basically
that's it, man. So yeah,
I've actually got two rooms here. He's in one. I'm in the other.
That's it. Yeah. Yes.
No. It is. It's always been a good meeting of mine. It's always been good to bounce off ideas with you, and you've always been, you know, sort of a backup moment of crisis. Okay, no, I get what you think. Sometimes a reality check. You know, it's a pleasure to kind of have you on board on a life basis, as well as you know, just your music and whatever. You've always been a supportive friend and cohort and supporter and everything that I've turned my hand to. So
yeah, again, man, that just comes back to what it's all about, right? It's all about community and connection. And I think in doing this kind of work, what we all need is a team, right? And so everyone on Face Ripper Records has you in their team. You know, you're in their court, they have you backing them up. You know, and to a degree, the other members of the community, whatever, they'll have varying levels of relationships with each other, but they've all got your backing. And so likewise, you know, you have my backing, and therefore everybody in Face Ripper does to some degree. You know, I'm absolutely more than happy to chat to people there. But then, you know, vice versa, you know, like I'm able to send people your way as well. And out of curiosity, man, do you have like a submission process, or are you mostly reaching out to the artist yourself? What's that like with the label?
Okay, so everyone that has been on so far, but bar two, I've approached. Some of them in the leading. I think if I was going to divide it in percentages, maybe something like 80% I've approached. 10% have kind of been watching and gone, well, we were aware of that, you were doing that, but now it actually looks quite real and really nice. We're on board. And then the other 10%, I suppose, have gone, this is, you know, we've worked with you before in the past, and now we've watched you grow to this. We've read your about page without me having to advertise or prompt. You know, is there any chance? And they've given a listen to it, and I'm going, oh yeah, I remember you, and you're absolutely awesome, fit right in. You know, so yeah, it is a bit of a mixture. But obviously, I started the record label a month ago, so I've been the one on the marketing campaign to get the tools. But as in terms of a submission process, I would just contact me via the website if you're watching this and are kind of interested, and like what you've seen here and read on the website and stuff. There's an about like form. I know that's very kind of low standard basic, but that will do for now. But again, I don't want to create an overblown, you know, onboarding process. So you know, just reach out, contact me. I'm happy to chat to anyone, no matter where you are in your journey. There's always something that, you know, there's always something to be garnered from everyone, you know.
Amazing. Yeah, man, that's really fantastic. And so we can definitely send people, like, if someone's listening to this thinking like Face Ripper sounds awesome, then just send a message.
It is totally awesome. It's brilliant.
Yeah, man. Yeah, really fantastic. And I was thinking that as we were talking about the systems you created, and you've done such a great job with it, like normally I'm the one doing this, so I would be really keen curious to hear, like, would you be able to give kind of like an overview of like the funnel that you're creating to promote Face Ripper and like artists and things like that? Your approach to it, at least.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we've tried not to make it sound sort of too technical. It is actually fairly sort of simplistic. So you've got your basic website. I mean, if you go to the faceripperrecords.com website today, should you just arrive there at random, one of the things you can do is you can pick up a free package. So obviously, when clicking on that button, and then we harvesting your email address, you know, that we're not going to email you 110 times a day, but that automatically sort of puts you in our sort of collection of database. We'll then send you sort of like a monthly newsletters. All of those have got clickable links to the artists, and every now and then I'll be running an artist campaign. So whilst some of the artists will click through to Bandcamp, because I'm all about keeping their money and their prices theirs, occasionally you'll get one that comes up to another sort of page of the website that says, let's just pick one of my bands at random. Let's go with Famine. Famine have put out a new single. Here's a discounted sort of, price for this. If they decide that they want that, they then get an opportunity to buy either a back catalogue, the last EP, for a nice rounded figure, and then they're sort of taken to check out. They could even be asked even a few more questions along the way. It all depends on how much material you've got, how you want to kind of sell it, what additional merch you've got. So it's sort of get you in, upsell, possible another upsell. And if, of course, if they're not interested, you've got like a downsell option. So if you're willing to spend like, £1 or £2 or $5 or whatever, you'd be happy to maybe sort of, put another dollar or another quid on top of that, or whatever it is that we're doing. So, we can capture all the yes customers, and we can capture some of the maybe customers, and we can even sort of capture a percentage of I wasn't really interested, but customers. And even if they're no, then we were aware of that, and they go, okay, so you don't like brutal death metal, maybe you're more of a symphonic person. And then the next newsletter that they get is slightly highlighted in terms of, well, this is whatever, and see how they go with that. So individual campaigns, different landing pages for websites, funnels that you'll sort of yes, no, maybe, that kind of stuff. Also, then we have things like sort of little newsletter, and we're going to have compilations that are coming out, which is specific only to sort of Face Ripper Records. Nice colourful artwork, and maybe sort of like PDF lyric sheets, this, that, an introduction. So again, we have these similar sort of funnels with that. I'll be doing that physically as well, and I'm actually going to be traipsing the streets and meeting like independent record labels and having a display case and all this kind of stuff. That's also, it's a mixture. You get a mixture of old school and new school kind of marketing with us, or with me, that's kind of how it works. So attack it from all angles, and just play with it. Just play with it.
That's it. Yeah, it's about sky's the limit, and about creating these kind of creative experiences. Ultimately, it's about an experience, and I think that's what's so cool about it. That's why we built this platform and look to encourage artists to use stuff like this, is because it all comes back to this thing about building community. And when you actually like put your email address in, when somebody signs up at Face Ripper Records, this is really how they can kind of officially become a part of that community. Because it's all well and good following a page on social media, but like we all know how those algorithms can change, and then like
and it's very even as someone experienced in it as myself, it's still quite a knock, because the rate of people kind of following you on social media, you get used to that as a human being over a period of time. And then when you go from a model that, okay, so really makes sense, it's collecting people's email addresses, and you see the rate up here that you're used to, and then you see the rate here. Yeah, it takes a lot of metal to basically not to look at that every day and not let yourself get beaten up by it. But it is quality over quantity, and the quantity will will build over time, and it's quite a personal thing asking for someone for their email address, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so frustrating seeing numbers come in. It's like no email address, no. But I know that the people that I've got on board actually have some investment in the label and or the music. And I was actually doing some metrics and having a look, and I was thinking I need to kind of upgrade the website a little bit, make it a little bit more interactive, give people more things to do so that stay on there longer. And I was seeing outbound traffic to the artist's individual Bandcamp. And I've had some feedback that their Bandcamp sales have gone up a little bit in all this kind of stuff already. So, it's working, and it just all takes time. And the proof is kind of starting to emerge, and that's good. I wish it was more. I always have this thing about me that I'm not doing enough, and I keep getting told off in the dedicated Discord server I've got with the article. Keep getting told off. Which is fine. But it's an awesome system. It's an awesome way about doing things. And I wish I kind of got on board earlier. It's benefit of hindsight.
I think, as you say, man, it's the quality versus quantity thing, and it can be humbling at first, but once you get that right, then you're building the real people that you can rely on. Again, that's 1,000 true fans thing,
Mm-hmm.
And like once you have things nicely going with your website, with funnels, things like that, because as you say, somebody can sign up and then you can schedule a series of automated emails, and that's where you get to really connect with them, build a relationship with them directly, tell them all about what you're about, etc. So to be able to do that in that kind of systematized way, once you've got it, so it's kind of working and people are following, maybe buying stuff from you or joining whatever, then man, you can up ad spend, right? If you've it's just a case of budget, you can get as many eyeballs on there as you want, and once they're on your email list, they're a real asset forever, unlike the social media followers and things like that. So if you're building towards your 1,000 true fans community type thing, that's the way to do it. And man, I think you've done excellent work with it, man. As I say, it's just been such a pleasure to kind of work with you somewhat on that, and just to see how awesome it's going and how everything's growing with the community and the label. Hopefully, the more artists we can sort of help through that, the better.
No, absolutely. For the next couple of weeks, we'll be sort of knuckling down on some bits and pieces. There'll be more stuff coming out of the corner. So stay tuned. I'm always busy. There's always something happening. So
of course, man. Of course. Last thing I wanted to ask you about then, because I know you've got to get off to work. Obviously, it's keeping busy as ever, and
yes,
you got things going on. So, but I would be curious, man. Like, so much amazing work with the label. Where are you at personally with your music? Because obviously you make fantastic music yourself. That's evolved quite a bit since we last spoke as well.
Yes.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about the music that you've done, and then maybe what you plan to do going forward.
Yeah. Okay. So what I've done, I kind of regurgitated my lived experience in a Victorian prison into sort of brutal black metal track, and that did so surprisingly well. People just I then sort of decided, well, okay, it's part of this kind of I got to do 10 singles by the end of the year type of bad idea I had in my head. I then looked at music that I liked, and there's a sort of techno Italian duo, Gioli and Asia, that I love, and I decided to do a cover version of their song. And I was talking to them before I did that song, but when I did that song, they stopped talking to me. So
they were probably quite shocked by the approach.
But then what else did I do? So I just sort of did a sort of like a tortured love song that never got off the ground. And I didn't particularly like that. That was a track called My Honeybee. It's not my favorite one. But then in recent weeks, it's sort of become the most requested song I play on my lives. It's funny how that works, isn't it? You go, no, I don't like that. So maybe it's a clue. If I don't like the finished product, that means it's actually really good, and that's where I need to be spending the marketing budget. Then I kind of launched into an epic version of a track called What God Wants, which is a three-parter by Roger Waters, ex Pink Floyd. and it appeared on his 1992 album Amused to Death, and I've always loved it. And it's like when you put the three parts together, it's 14 minutes. I managed to condense it into sort of 5 minutes and 26, paring things away, but making it all sort of symphonic and progressive and just absolutely crazy. And the AI video took absolutely ages, you know.
Yeah.
And that's done, you know, surprisingly well. No comment yet from Roger Waters himself.
I saw that in your email. It was hilarious, man. Like, you gave reviews for that song.
So posted
Roger Waters, no comment.
No comment.
Yes.
No comment yet. So I'm still waiting for the cease and desist notice to come through the door. You know, please don't torture my music. And I've got a couple of bits and pieces on the boil. In fact, I think I will get another one out. Oh no, I did some dark techno. I have this side thing called Cannibalize, and I decided to mess about with that for a little bit. And then back on the metal side, I've got a track called Internal Narrative coming out. It's about destructive internal narratives, and it's a short one, but it's vicious. Bit in the sort of the vein of Banged Up. I'm working on that at the moment, and I want to get that out by the end of the year, so that I'm, you know, well over the 50% margin of this crazy goal that I had in August. I don't think I'll sleep if I don't do it. So that's going to come up soon, and it gives me something to, you know, additional to kind of market it and face with the news, you know. So
amazing, man, amazing. That's so good, dude. It's so exciting, man. I'm so excited for everything you've got going on, you know, musically and with the label. And man, it's so.
Well, we need to hear from you musically. You've been quiet a while.
I have been very quiet. Yeah, I didn't release anything this year, but it's okay. You know, next year is going to be a busy one. So
good,
you know.
Good. Need to hear more of your music.
Thank you, man. Well, dude, before we cut this, because we could happily, you know, I can always chat with you all day.
Yeah.
But you know, we've got to wrap up somewhere. Is there anything that you'd like to get in there before we finish up?
Well, no, I suppose, but it would always end something boiling down to my overall ethic, you know, is if you've watched this, you know, hopefully the two of us have managed to inspire you to either continue playing, start playing, pick up your musicianship again, or get out of the doldrums and dust off the keyboards, violin or whatever, you know, just keep at it, show up, turn up. You know, it's a special gift that you've got, no matter what level you are at the journey. Enjoy the journey, invest in the journey. And I think that's one of the best things you can do for yourself as a human being.
Absolutely, man. Wow. Dude, thank you so much, man. I look forward to round 3 sometime.
Yes, no, indeed. Yeah. It's been about a year, hasn't it? I think it was a year or so since
like that.
Yeah. We'll do it again in another year.
Yeah.
I'll be grayer.
Cool, man. All right. Well, you know, enjoy the rest of your day, dude. And thank you so much for coming on again. Catch you soon.
Take it easy.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Creating a Universe. Special thanks to Ben for being the first returning guest on the podcast. It's always such a pleasure to chat. Be sure to check out Face Ripper Records at faceripperrecords.com, where you can sign up to join the community and get your free label sign. That's all for this one. I'll see you next time.